Hey everyone, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here all by myself to talk about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth spoilers. Doug's normally with me. He keeps claiming he will eventually play all of these. He's been saying that for years. I don't believe him. But regardless, he didn't want to hear all the spoilers because he has not touched Infinite Wealth. What we're here to do is to kind of just talk about the incredible, amazing, greatest of the Yakuza series things that happen in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So, gonna kind of run through the story. We'll talk about characters, talk about some side moments, and talk about where things go for Like a Dragon post Infinite Wealth a little bit. I'm not gonna try and do a whole recap and talk on every single moment. Just kind of some of the ones that really stood out to me. Complete spoilers. Chapter 1 through the finale. Some of the side stuff. I didn't 100% this by any means yet. To start with, I just kind of want to go through the overall story because I think that's kind of a good way to kind of hit the moments as they build. I'm a big believer that all of the Yakuza, Judgment, Like a Dragon games really build to about a 50% moment. Somewhere between 50%, 2/3, somewhere in that range is where these things just go off. So I feel like you spend kind of half the game kind of slowly building there and then just go crazy. So I'm not going to spend every second in all the little things, but let's just start with the beginning. I love how this plays out 3 years later, but feeling like directly after 7, just because of how the Great Disillusion has completely changed this world. Where before we're seeing these Yakuza as powerful people, we're seeing them kind of in all facets of society, and now it's Kasuga sitting there at a Hello Workbench desk, just sitting there going, all right, maybe I can find you some work, but we gotta be kind of hush-hush about it. Everything's kind of played underneath. And I love the idea of this, him deciding, how can I give back to this community? How can I help these people? And he's looked at as the hero of Yokohama. I think that's just a great spot for him to start, just from the way that he interacts with people, the way that he treats people. And I think what this game really made me solidify is that he is who they wanted Kiryu to be. Kiryu was always this like hardened Yakuza with a heart of gold, like that's really going to go and, you know, he really just wants to help his orphanage. But I think with Ichiban, we really see that more specifically from the get-go. We see that, like, yes, he is in the Yakuza. Yes, he's done some things, but deep down, he's just there because that's just like Kiryu. That's who he was kind of raised by, and that's where he came from. But I think that with Ichiban, especially in this, they kind of do a better job of just pushing him directly out of that really quick. And I think 7 did that, and I think here we see that, like, okay, he has this connection, he has this understanding who these people are, but he knows that there's good in these people, and how can we help them take that step from there? So I think it's just a very interesting way to start this game, because it is just such a simple, easy idea of what to do with this. Where are the Yakuza themselves, as that's been such a central player in these games for the past 20 years, just as much as Kiryu has. How are these people handling this monumentous change that happened at the end of 7? So great start here. I love that we start in Yokohama before we get to Hawaii. That threw me off initially. I thought this was going to be Hawaii. So seeing Yokohama right away, jumping right in there back to a familiar spot, is one of the great things about this series, is just these familiar spots that you get to know and love. So being back there right away, I think just also kind of breathed that, like, whew, okay, we're still in Like a Dragon. We're still in Yakuza. We're not throwing away what's behind us to jump to Hawaii and be all goofy and silly. We still got that there. Moving on a little bit. I think this game also is weird just in that it starts with this devastating moment. The first date with Sachan, and how that goes for Ichiban is just insane. It's this perfect moment of, like, this guy who just, he doesn't know what to do in this moment and just goes for it. And it's just like reckless abandonment, just that like reckless passion of, I love this person. I don't know how to convey that. I don't know what the norms are for that. I don't know what I should do in this situation. And just the rejection. And they talk about, like, oh no, she just walks away and just blanket ignores him for months on end. And it's just this so devastating thing. It feels like that cringy, like The Office, Parks and Rec, like that type of humor where it's just like, you're just meant to like sit and go, I don't know if I like this. Is this funny? Is this good? And it's such an interesting place again to start with, and just to kind of see where our characters from 7 are at, and just the ranting on and on about how I will do all of this for you and I'll take care of this and this, and just, we'll get to it later, but Kiryu talks about it like, just say I love you. Like, that's what you want to do here. Just do it. And it's just so crazy that it's so crazy, and just, it's so fitting to just kind of this kind of goofy, dumb, lovable guy that Ichiban is, that he just like can't get to that point. He's like, no, but this, oh, and this. And it's so good. So we get to Y. We meet up with Kiryu. We're going and finding people. Kiryu's cancer becomes a big thing right away. I don't know how I felt about this. It kind of felt out of nowhere almost a little bit, just because, again, we saw a lot of Kiryu and Gaiden, which takes place, I don't know the timeline exactly, but I mean, obviously there are scenes of Kiryu in, spoilers for that, and there'll be some spoilers for some other Yakuza games, but you see Kiryu in Hawaii in some of the final scenes there. So in my mind, it's taking place, a couple weeks later, and we just had this huge Kiryu-centric thing, and there's no mention of it. Now here this is as kind of his driving motivation for what he's doing, is to kind of have this like one last shot, and like, this is all I know, this is who I am. I really think it's interesting because the Yakuza series worked so hard to get Kiryu from just hard-nosed Yakuza to this guy who loves nothing more than his orphanage. And just the scene in Gaiden where he breaks down over the pictures of them and them at the grave sites are just, it's one of the most impactful moments I've had in a game. So just, I feel like then he gets this cancer diagnosis, and it just kind of resets him back to like, no, I'm here, I'm going to do this, this is who I am, this is what I need to do, it's the job, and then I'm gone. It's just, it's very interesting. I still don't quite know how I feel about it. I love the redemption story that you kind of get at the end, where he's, kind of going back to getting the treatments that he needs and trying to take care of himself that way in the hospital. So I like there's some redemption in it. It just, I still don't quite know how I liked about that for Kiryu, especially being kind of that early sign there. And then just it kind of felt like it came and went as the game went on. I feel like there were scenes where Kiryu was like, oh my gosh, like I can't do this anymore. Specifically, there's a scene shortly after, maybe a chapter or two later, where he's coughing up blood, and you have to run away from him because he's like, I'm just going to make my last stand here, and this is all I've got. And then you go on, and it's like, okay, but, 3 days later, he's back in there, running, fighting, doing all the other stuff. But it just kind of felt like this back and forth of like, is he really weakened down because of this? Where is he at with this? So I can go either way. I like it as a big picture idea. I don't necessarily know if the beat-to-beat moments were what I would have thought and liked from that. The other thing with early Hawaii, and I'll get way more positive. Like I said, I absolutely love this game. I think it's flawless. But I think just some of the intro stuff, the first 5 to 10 hours, I think is probably the weakest part of this game, just with some of the build-up and things. Our gang build-up, just the way that it just didn't feel like any. You kept getting these conversations about how these gangs are just these crazy things, and they're so terrifying and they're so terrible. And then you kind of just go through and you just kind of waltz through them, and then they're over, and it just felt like it was kind of like, okay, what's going on? Like, why are these things so quick? Until we get to the introduction of Bryce as Overseer, and we find out that, oh, no, we're all secretly just these lowly, pathetic things compared to this guy. And I think when you kind of start to see Bryce, you're like, okay, just kind of this nice guy. And again, it kind of reflects, and it's a kind of a Yakuza staple. We get this guy working at this orphanage who just wants to take care of these kids, and it turns out, oh no, he's a giant dick and an asshole. Like, you get the kind of early indications that there's some cult stuff, and I think that was a great change for the series of, okay, we've kind of pushed the Yakuza to the side now, we need something to step up. Ooh, what if it's like a crazy cult? And I think just kind of all that stuff of how that kind of all kind of came tumbling in around the story of Lonnie and trying to get her, and her being the true sage of Palkana. It worked really, really well to kind of all of a sudden have this big momentous figure creep in after, 4, 5, 6 chapters of these apparently intimidating gangs that really weren't all that intimidating once you actually kind of get to slowly go through there. And it's like, oh, it's Dwight in a penthouse. Okay, that's it. We're done. We're cool. We're moving on. All right, cool. So I really like Bryce. We'll kind of talk about him a little bit more when we get to specific characters, but just kind of the scenes of him opening up and just kind of being introduced, and then you kind of realize who he is, and he kind of tries to threaten them all, and there's a lot of cool cult stuff that I really like with that, which I think, again, is just an interesting take for the series. Right around this time, we get the vision that Kiryu has of Lonnie and Haruka kind of coming together and kind of making that comparison. And I liked this because I feel like it finally really does give Kiryu that motivation. Like, oh, no, we're back to me finding this girl, and we're back to me needing to be able to take care of this girl, which, again, harkens way back to all of the early Yakuza games. That was, kind of the driving motivation for a lot of things that he did in 1 and 2 specifically. And then, of course, she's a major factor in a lot of his decision making throughout the series. But I think just that kind of cements, they use it as a great scene to cement like his reason for doing all of this. And then he kind of uses that throughout. Because I think before that, you just kind of had the like, oh, yeah, the government faction, they're kind of telling me to do this. If I don't do this, they're going to do some blackmail on me. And they've got all this kind of stuff. And they're holding the orphanage hostage. And those are all good things. But I think that made it personal for Kiryu. And I think that's where you really see him kind of step up and go like, no. This shit's going down. And then when he ends up going back to Yokohama, and we kind of slowly get, okay, here's our Yakuza angle getting added back in here, because we can't go too far without having that Yakuza angle tossed in. We get the Seiryu clan. And I love that it's like, we're going back to Kamurocho. We're going back to Tojo clan headquarters. We're going back to these iconic sets that are there. The Tojo clan headquarters in particular, again, feels really familiar. We've done so many things there over the past 20 years. But when you go to the room with all the chairs where all the meetings were, and you see him sitting in that chair at the end, and Kiryu just walks up to Abina and is just like, you need to get out the fucking chair. You don't belong there. You don't deserve that chair. Is just incredible. It was one of those moments of just like, ho. And he's of course doing like, oh, but you're the fourth chairman. I get it. And just that moment just kind of gave me like the, ooh, shit's going to go down. You get out of the chair right now. You don't do. So well done. I loved that moment as he was doing that. And then we get kind of the setup part of our VTuber, the Tathra channel, outing Kiryu. And of course had some things with Ichiban earlier. And I like the idea of like, Kiryu's been dead. And everybody just thinks he's dead. And he's just kind of this mythical, legendary figure that people are kind of aware of. And because they don't know the true Kiryu and they don't know about the orphanage and all this stuff that he's done, all the good has kind of been hush-hush behind Tojo Clan stuff. It's like, oh, no. Clearly, he is at Tojo Clan headquarters. He is here to resurrect the Tojo Clan. He's pissed about it all falling apart. And he is here now to come and take it back. And it's such a cool angle to go through of like blackmail there, of like just, okay, if you saw this guy, still looks like a Yakuza, still clearly interacting with Yakuza, still doing these things, going back to this place, makes sense, right? Like these people were pissed. Like a lot of people knew that, okay, all the Yakuza are having troubles with this, that Ichiban was helping out earlier. What are we going to do to help these people? Well, he's going to resurrect the Tojo clan and they're going to come back to power because they regret what they did, because they're seeing all these things and they're seeing the Seiryu clan come in and kind of take their territory and go, well, no. This is ours. Get out my chair. And just the way that that's outed, I like, ironically, sitting here talking on YouTube, the way that these VTubers kind of played into it. It was like, okay, it's this really cool way to 2024 a lot of this stuff, because, oh yeah, like so much of the stuff was done in secret and hush-hush and all that other stuff in the early 2000s, in the late 90s where the series starts. But now, like, people are going to figure this shit out. There's cameras everywhere. People do all this stuff. They're going to figure it out. I just thought that was a really cool angle, and especially we'll get to where Chi-Chan comes in and all that stuff later on, and how she is obviously doing this, and the Seiryu clan's role in that, and Abina's role in that. It's just really, really well done. So just to kind of transition back to our Hawaii side of the story here, right around here is where you get the big blackmail scene, and you get all the revelations happening. And I think this is one of those big turning points in the game for me, where it's like, okay, no, this is one of my favorite ones. I think this might be, and Yakuza's kind of Like a Dragon is kind of the known stereotypical, like, okay, you're going to have this guy double cross this guy who's going to double cross this guy who's pretending to be this guy who's going to triple cross this guy who it turns out the whole time was actually doing this, and he was a bad guy, but was he a good? And you kind of get that throughout the series, and it's kind of just atypical for the series now. I do think that the scene in the headquarters there was one of the best they've ever done, when we find out that EG is actually blackmailing Chitose and this whole thing as Tatsura Channel, and he's faking being crippled, and he's secretly working for the Yakuza. And I think there's just the scene where he's kind of laughing at Ichiban and like, you're pathetic, dude. Like, you saw me in a wheelchair and you instantly assumed I needed your help and I couldn't do anything, and you just instantly assumed we're best buds, and you just instantly, you're so trusting and good natured. It was laughably easy to trick you. And it's just, I liked that part, because it is kind of the character of him is just still, and you see it in this with several other characters. You saw it in 7 where he's just like, all right, yeah, we fought. No, I believe you're a good guy. I beat you. You're a good guy. You're going to come with, right? You got it, right? We're cool. We're cool. Okay. And you're like, that dude was was a captain in the Yakuza, and now all of a sudden we're just best buds because you think he learned his lesson. And I just think that it's kind of this good payoff to like, okay, that's not always the case, right? Sometimes these people don't just instantly go, I will atone for my sins. And I think atonement is kind of a major key factor in this game as the main story. But just, I love it. It's just so good. Just the way that they play Iji's character from going from like just this like mild manner, like, oh, bon voyage, like just super nice, calm, cool, collected, to like laughing in your face, like shouting at you. And then just the crazy shootout where people are getting killed left and right. Honestly, I don't even remember his name, but he was the leader, I'm blanking on his name, the leader of one of the gangs is in there. And you're like, oh, okay, he's probably going to join our parties. Nope, just shot here. Like, he's literally just in there and just gets shot. The leader of the Daijo faction is in there. He gets shot. Like, just the whole world goes to shit in that moment. It's so well done, and it comes out of nowhere, and you get 2 characters between Chi-Chan revealing that she's actually Tatsuro Channel at that point, and Iji blackmailing her. That you get these 2 major characters who you've put a lot of trust in over the prior 15, 20 hours at this point, to just going like, no, this is it. And you kind of see the 2 responses there with Iji kind of like doubling down and going like, haha, no, let's get out of here. Let's book it back to Japan. We got this. We're done. We're set. We found Lani. We got what we need out of you. We're ditching you. And Chi-Chan just kind of going like, well, I don't know. Like, can I help you? Can I not help you? Like, I've been doing this for so long. I don't know. It's very, very intense in that moment of just seeing the 2 dichotomies of like, well, can I be forgiven? Can I not? Again, coming back to that atonement theme. And can I still help you all because I still really want to help this girl, but clearly I've betrayed all of your trust the whole time. So we'll talk about it more with side stuff, but to jump back over to Japan, I absolutely knew it was coming, but still really enjoyed it. You got to get the classics in here. We had to get Majima, Daigo, Sajima. We had to find them, of course. So, of course, Kiryu's like, well, we got to get some help. Let's go get the boys. Like, let's go get these guys. We need help kind of really like figuring out the stuff. You guys can stand up there and talk about, kind of the way Syria Clan's doing this. And, if it's me, you 3, like we are like the top of the Tojo clan for the last 20 years. Everyone knows us. Like, if you guys just come down and help us, we got this. And they've kind of clearly tried to do some things over the years that just didn't work out. And they talk about it. And they're just kind of so like disillusioned about the whole thing. They're like, no, like, even us, these powerful figures, like the rest of the world just sees us as ex-Yakuza. We can't do anything. Why would we help? We can't do anything. We're just stuck here. So we're just going to live out our lives sitting in this little camp and call it a day in the middle of nowhere. Just really interesting scene. Of course, we have to fight them because, why the hell aren't you going to help me? Well, then let's fight. Let's do this. Always fun to get those legacy characters tossed in here. I think the series has always done a good job of kind of embodying a lot of those things without forcing you to know hours and hours of backstory, but still kind of getting the purpose of who these people are, and just seeing those 3 names, chairman of the Tojo clan, captain of this, kind of like pop up, and then the fight happening. Great fight. Loved it. Just another really cool moment. So now we get kind of towards the ending here of the story, just kind of our walk through here. The Yakuza trying to kind of go, okay, no, we're not the Yakuza. We're actually a nonprofit. We're Bleach Japan again. Like, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to help Japan out. Great callback to 7, kind of a group that kind of seemed like it was just kind of on the edge and just was a one and doneer, and we kind of brought it back here. And then that, of course, kind of coming together and revealing this whole nuclear waste thing. I always love the weird, like, shadow government secret things that are underneath the surface. In these, I think it's 6 is the giant ass submarine that like is just there off the coast. Just all these weird little things that we kind of have to sprinkle in to really make this like not just a Yakuza thing, but like a world ending event potentially. So Bleach Japan and Palcana, just these 2, nice little groups coming together just to hold up nuclear waste of all things. It's just really, really weird. When we finally get the crew back together, we get all, 10 party members or so. Lani, everybody just kind of hanging out at the homeless camp. Just a really good scene there. I really liked being able to see the crew just kind of be able to kind of take a breath. It's going down. All right. It was a great lead into kind of that point of no return moment of, all right, shit's about to go down, but let's take a breather. Let's pause. And we'll see what happens next. You have some good conversations. There's a conversation with Kiryu up at the top where he kind of talks you through some of like, just say I love you, dumbass stuff. And you got to get, you find Psycho and are just like, hey, like just when we're done, don't die. We'll come back and we'll talk. I think I figured it out. And she kind of does like, well, I'm kind of sorry for ignoring you for all this time. Let's talk when this is over. So you get some good moments there too. So we split. We got Ichiban going back to Hawaii. I like when you get to the island. It clearly wasn't just this murderous like death cult. You kind of had you very quickly saw the two sides, because you start out, you get there, and of course you have the cultists coming to try and fight you and kill you. And after like 3 or 4 fights, then you just get to this village where these people are just nice, like, oh, who are you? You're not supposed to be out here. Like, come in and help us. And I think that does a good job of reminding you back to the opening when you first meet Bryce, who's just a guy working in an orphanage. He just leads the orphanage. Everybody loves him. He's trying to help. He's talking you through like, oh, can you go get down to the food bank? You're doing all these like just great, helpful, non-profit-y, just humanitarian aid things. And that's kind of what you get when you start meeting like the people in this little town for a second. It's like, oh yeah, like go up there, we'll help you, we'll patch you up. I can't believe like what happened. Oh my goodness. And then of course they come and burn the cabin down and try to kill you again. It's just, I love that kind of that dichotomy there. I think it plays up the cult aspect a lot of just, there's good happening here, and that's why people are drawn to it. But at the same time, underneath this is what Bryce's real ultimate goal is and who these people really are. So we go through. The giant ass cave full of nuclear waste just made me laugh. It was just one of those things where it's just like, this is so ridiculous. Like, there are, a million just random cans of nuclear waste in here. This is just, it's one of those so over the top things that you just have to laugh. It's a great little, again, big old submarine, half a mile off the coast, that type of thing where it's just like, okay, come on, this is funny. I also like that, you finally beat Bryce. And he sits down and is just like, no, but I don't think you realize this. Every government in the world's on this. I got these people coming to me. I got these people coming to me. You beat me. Fine. Whatever. We're just going to keep doing this. It doesn't matter. And then you get the phone. Chitashi gets out the phone and it's just like, oh, no. Hi, everybody. And just like puts on the Tartara channel voice and is just kind of like talking through. And just every time he just kind of, they cut to Bryce's face and just like, shit. Oh, damn it, every time, because he's like, no, I got this. He's like, well, nope, this, and just kind of outs everybody at the end. I think that's kind of a good redemption scene after kind of the shootout betrayal that you have with her earlier on. So I don't know, I just think it's a really good ending there, because you do get that sense of like, he doesn't care if he loses. Like he's got what he wants. He has all this stuff. Obviously he tries to throw himself off the railing, balcony, whatever you're fighting on, and Ichiban saves him. So he's not like, well, I'm not dying here, and these people need me, so what you gonna do? And it's a very smug ending for him that I thought was very, very character fitting, that I really liked, just because he had that overbearing confidence in everything that he did all the way through. So then we get to the final end. We jump back over to Japan with Kiryu and the gang. You got to have the final at Millennium Tower. I think that's just, it's a good classic. It's playing the hits. Like, as soon as it's like, yep, meet me at Millennium Tower, like, of course. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we be at Millennium Tower? That's where it all has to end every time. There are so many iconic fights. That building getting built and all the history in that building. It's a perfect finale for, what ultimately feels like, for the third time, Kiryu's final adventure. So great thing there. The helicopter coming in, you got to have the helicopter shoot. You got to have the helicopter moment there in the tower. Works out great again. There's one fight where Daigo, Sajima, and Majima come back again to fight with you, which I thought was really cool. I was it's one of those things where I was like, ooh, okay, are you going to make me control them? Because then I had this weird moment of like, ooh, I got to figure out who's doing buffs, who's doing debuffs, and I like that they just tossed them into support characters, and then it's just the four of you just beating the shit out of all of these like low level guys, and just a quick, easy fight with them. And of course they do the like, no, go, you got it. So we get to the top with Ebina, who I haven't talked much about this because I don't like him. I I think he's one of the weaker characters in this. And I think it's just because I'm here for revenge. That's it. The Yakuza screwed up my life. Didn't like the way my parents handled it. It's bad. I don't like it. No. I'm going to do everything to just punish the Yakuza, which is a motive, but it never felt like there was this grander plan. Because he had a grand plan. I don't know. He's one of those characters where I can't quite decide if I really liked his plan or not. I liked the idea of like, oh yeah, like we made this deal with Palcana to basically just dump Yakuza on this island with nuclear waste. We're going to round up all the Yakuza. We're going to dump them on this island and go, there you go. You're a cult problem. You're in a cult now. Ha, gotcha. I thought that was a good way to kind of put his plan into action and initiate kind of his revenge on this whole group of people. But it just, I don't know, the whole, him as a main villain, as being kind of the central villain, I don't think quite had the same gravity as Bryce did. I think Bryce kind of embodied that evil end game villain a little bit better. The random toss of him being Ichiban's half brother, kind of weird as well. Kind of came and went again, and I feel like it's weird to have Kiryu kind of deal with that. So I don't know. That was just kind of tossed in there. And then Kiryu's redemption as he's beating the crap out of him and he's on the floor and he's like, what do I do? You're not going to kill me. What are you going to do now? I'm just going to keep coming back. And Kiryu just climbs on top of him and is just like, I'm sorry. And it's just this moment of like, I was the fourth chairman. I could have done something. I didn't. I could have prevented all this. I could have stopped so many things from happening. And I didn't. And it's just this incredible heartfelt moment from him of just like acknowledging that like, and I think if Doug ever listens to this, I think Doug's thing with Kiryu is always like, yeah, he has a heart of gold, but he's in the Yakuza doing these things. And that's kind of always been his kind of knock on Kiryu, I think. And I think this is one of those moments where it's like taking that thing that people find is the issue with your character and going, okay, well, let's put some redemption there. And it's Kiryu going like, I know I tried to do my best. I tried to help, but I know I could have done more. I was the head of this whole thing and I didn't stop it. I didn't do anything. I just kept going with it. And it was just this great moment of acknowledgement of we've kind of had this character in this weird place of like, he's a Yakuza, but he's a nice Yakuza. And it's just this great redemption moment, almost like 2018 God of War did for Kratos, where it's like, oh yeah, Kratos just killing people left and right and just has no. It's like, no. Okay, we get that. Let's put him with his son. Let's show him with this. And that moment just kind of solidified Kiryu as like this, like, okay, this is kind of the shit that Kiryu has lived with. This is kind of the regret that he's lived with his whole life. And it's just coming out in this moment where he knows he's close to dying, where he knows he's kind of won this last battle. And it's him going like, oh, I'm at the end and I'm at the end of it. And I just need to say, I'm sorry, because clearly this whole thing wronged you and it wrongs so many other people. I'm sorry. And it was such a great moment there too, to kind of end that part. So our last two scenes, I want to spend a second on these. Kasuga running in and finding EG in the hotel apartment, whatever building it was, with the busted up ankle. And just him going like, you know what? Yeah, you double crossed me. Yeah, you hurt me. But like, we had some fun. Remember when we got to Hawaii when we were just drinking and just loving life? And again, it just kind of speaks to kind of his dumb compassion where it's just, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you did. You always get that second chance. You always have that chance. And just EG just sitting there going like, but you don't understand what I did. And he's going like, it's fine, man. Let's just go. I'll help you go turn yourself in. We'll see what happens. And if you need me, I'm there for you no matter what. We're friends at the beginning. We're going to be friends at the end. And it was really just powerful to see that, like that forgiveness piece there and that atonement. I love that kind of stuff. And then just as they walk out of the building and he's just, piggyback riding him and the people start whipping trash at him. It's one of those things where it's like, it was almost, it doesn't quite get to the level of guidance, but it's one of those moments where like, I almost was like, oh man, I'm gonna like tear up at this. So he's like, just saying like, no, it doesn't matter, but I got you. Like, I'm going to take care of you. Like, we got this. I'm not going to leave you to this stuff. I'm going to be here for you. It's just this really powerful show of forgiveness and of like completely free, just, you are my person. I'm with you and I'm here for you. It's so powerful. It's such a just seeing where they came from again, from that shootout scene that I described before to here. It's crazy. And I love the way that worked out for him. Didn't really feel the need for him to get the shit kicked out of him. That kind of was like, okay, I don't quite know why we need this in here, but that was a minor thing there. And then ultimately the ending, Haruka comes to visit Kiryu in the hospital. If you do all the life links, you almost go and visit her at Serena in Kamurocho, and you kind of like hold back just because of some of the things that she's saying. And I actually think that scene makes it better, where it's like she kind of talks about how like, oh, we're so strong, I don't know what I'd say to him, and da-da-da. And then you come to the ending, and she walks into his hospital room, and it took me a long time. It kind of sat with me for a day or two of like, should there have been an interaction between the two? And I still don't necessarily know. I kind of like leaving it open-ended like that, just because it's one of those moments where it's like, now it's up to me as the player to kind of fill in the blanks of like, okay, but when he comes out of that treatment that he's going into, like, what is that reunion like? What does he say? What does he do? And I think that leaving that open-ended is almost more powerful than the like, she just runs in and gives him a hug on the hospital bed. Because I think there's so much built in that moment that I don't know if there was a way to play that moment out that wouldn't have almost felt disappointing in some way. So I really like that we kind of left it open-ended. And then just seeing Kiryu kind of go like for the whole game passing off. And this is where that cancer thing kind of comes full circle. It's him kind of passing off that treatment going like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, after having done all of this, after seen all of this, having gone through all of this stuff in this game, you see him kind of going, okay, no, I'm in the hospital. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to see what we can do. It's one of those things where like I feel like I'm pathetic and stupid for saying this, but then the trophy pops up that the last trophy for beating the game, when it pops up and it's like the guy asks like, who are you, Kiryu Kazuma? And then the trophy goes boop, and it says the man who reclaimed his name. Was just like, oh, that is so good, because that was Gaiden kind of had like a little bit of like heat on it for just a dumb name, and that one little trophy pop just redeemed it. It was just one of those things where it's like, this isn't actually part of the game, but whew, that felt good. I liked that, because again, it just kind of goes, okay, no, Kiryu's back. We can use him in some way, shape, or form. And then ultimately the post credits, you get the scene of I love you, the stupid shirts, and just the guys drinking in the bar, just like watching him. Just be like, oh, he kind of learned. And it's like this touching scene of like, I love you. And oh, I waited for you to say that. And I love it. It's great. And then of course he has to go the extra step of like, whoop, nope, look at my dumbass t-shirt. And it was just so in character and so great. And I loved it. It was super interesting, super weird, super goofy. And I think kind of this way to end Ichiban's scene on a way that is purely and wholly uniquely Ichiban. So that I think kind of wraps up the story. Those are kind of just my very long-winded, not summary of the story. I hope it didn't sound like a summary of the story. I didn't want it to be that, but just kind of those moments that stood out and just kind of my thoughts on some of the big pieces in this game. It's a huge game, so there's a lot. But I'd be remiss if I didn't go through some of just kind of the other random goofy things that kind of popped up through the game that I really, really loved. So just some side story moments or bosses or just little things that just I saw it and giggled or saw it and laughed and saw it and went, oh, cool. And these, I don't think these are in order. These are just kind of things that kind of popped in my brain when I was thinking about it. But early on, when you kind of get the bat and the party back together in Yokohama, and I think it's chapter 1 even, where it's just like, all right, let's do this again. Just so epic. It's not quite the like pull the bat out of the cement that was Ichiban getting those hero powers in 7, but just it definitely was close, and it was just really, really cool. The other thing, getting into kind of Kiryu's bucket list, which I thought was an incredible idea, and I think this is really what put me over the top of this being my favorite game. Just him being able to go back to all this stuff. Before I get into it, I love the fact that this game assumes that Kiryu 100%ed and did every single thing in every single prior game to this. He was like, you meet the pocket circuit guy, he's like, oh no, like years ago I was the best pocket circuit racer in all of Japan, and then you meet like the 2 girls from the cabaret club. It's like, no, he ran the greatest cabaret club in the history of this town. Every single thing of like, oh yeah, this random side story about this girl who had this keychain and how you helped her, do this thing, and now she's an adult. And it's just I loved the fact that it's just like, we're gonna assume you 100% of these games. If you're playing this, you probably did. I definitely didn't, but it was just a weird thing to kind of take it from that perspective of like, we're not only going to reminisce about this, we're going to make the assumption that you not only know these characters, but you were the greatest batter ever, the greatest golfer ever, the greatest everything ever. It's just kind of a fun, goofy way to look at it. So the reminiscing is really cool. I love just kind of walking around and just seeing what things popped up. I'm not the type of person who has like this weird encyclopedic knowledge of things, but I loved the ones where I got like, oh, that's the thing from 5. Oh yeah. And 6, you did that. Loved all of those. I thought they were really, really cool. I very much loved that Ishin and Dead Souls got shout outs as like movie posters. And it's like, oh, the zombie movie. I had this really weird dream that like zombies attacked Kamurocho and I was there, and it's a really cool way to even just toss a little nod to that side stuff. Life links with Date, I loved those two. I loved bringing Date back and just him just going like, yeah, but like they don't want you to like people know that they're there, but if you're just like in the same room so you can kind of get a feel for how they're doing, like that's okay, right? And I just love the way that he just kind of approached that whole thing, and this kind of like edged Kiryu closer and closer to the list of like, just go talk to him, just go talk to him. And of course you get Akiyama towards the end where he's just like straight up like, the hell are you doing? Why don't you just come talk to me? What's all this sneaking around bullshit? And it's just great moment there. I liked the first one where you see Taichi and you see kind of him like stepping into this role, and him kind of noticing you and talking about how like you get this feeling of like just the impact that you had on his life, especially, and I sorry to keep going back to it, but that guided ending was so powerful to me with how just emotional Kiryu was over these kids, and now seeing him grown up and being able to be in the same place and seeing him kind of be able to take a stand for something that's right. And just, it was one of those moments where I just kind of just sat on it for a second. It was just like, whoa, okay, like that is like a real true legacy moment, because you remember this kid from, I think it's 3 is where you kind of do a lot of stuff at the orphanage with him, and you just have this moment of like, Kiryu's been through a lot of stuff, and this kid growing up seeing Kiryu and seeing how he handled things just turned into this like really person that Kiryu really thought was a really great person. It was just very, very cool scene. Again, I think because you get kind of the framing for the rebuilding the Tojo clan from the public eye, but then from these life links, you see, no. Kiryu has had such an impactful, positive change on so many people that's the true Kiryu, not this, I'm going to rebuild the Tojo clan legendary Yakuza that a lot of other people see. Thought that was really cool. Just those life links there. I went through all of those immediately. I think I stopped the game for like 3 hours just to try and go through and kick all of them because I was just loving it so much. Kind of sticking on Kiryu, the essence of remembrance for the Dragon of Dojima job. The first time it happened, I was like blown away that it was just all these like the back tattoos of all of the old villains and everything, and just like remembering all these things that had happened to him and just kind of using those moves. Very cool. Again, way to use the legacy content in this. So good. And then again, just to kind of wrap up Kiryu, the scene where he puts on that iconic jacket and walks out, and you're like, oh, we've had this kind of like secret agent Kiryu the whole time, and now we've got no. Kiryu's back. He's back. We got the jacket. And you can't have a Yakuza game without the jacket rips, so you get one for both of the final fights for Ichiban and Kiryu. You gotta love the jacket rips. Weird thing too, the Lost Judgment detective showing up. I thought that was very odd, mostly because I feel like they didn't do anything. I don't know if I missed a side thing, but it literally just felt like hey, I know these guys. They're over there. And of course we don't get, the main guys from Judgment. We don't get Yagame and Kaito. We get the random guys who kind of spun off their own office into Yokohama, and they just sit there. And I kind of just, for like the next hour or two, was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to the bar, and they're going to be there. I'm going to go back, and they're going to be there. And it's like, no, they just kind of popped in. We went, those guys too, and moved on with our lives. Just goofy things. So I love tying it all together like that, though. So very cool. We got 3 ridiculous bosses, and again, I didn't do all the side stuff. There are a couple other ones that were kind of ridiculous, but the 3 ones that stand out. Got to fight the big old excavators again. I love that we doubled it this time. We got 2. And then jumping in them and launching them across the street. Fantastic. You get just so goofy. Love it. Completely love it. And then the other 2 I've got coming from kind of the going to the Palicana Island. The shark. I love the shark. There's the opening scene where it's just like messing with people and it's eating people off the back of the boat. My wife is like, for some reason, a weirdly huge fan of Jaws. And so I've seen that movie way too many times. Probably not as good a movie, but you just see it's just so reminiscent of Jaws. It's so well done. I just love the dumb shark. And then of course, you come back and we're going back to the island, and now you get to fight the shark, and just the shark just like jumping up and just slapping everybody, and he doesn't move across. Great boss fight. Love the shark. Everything about that. Both times flawless, no notes. And then finally, right before you fight Bryce, you get to fight the giant squid. That's like the guardian of the island. Again, just goofy fight. I love it. I love that it eats you and then you have to fight its inside. So you've got like, if it eats whoever it eats, you've got your 3 guys on the outside, eats one, so you're just fighting on the outside, and then we cut into the inside of the squid for you to like smack whatever organs it was, and then it spits you back. And just dumb. Love the dumb stuff. I do think this game has an excellent ending. I think it puts everybody where we need to be. It puts everybody in happy spots. You've got Ichiban finally learning how to be in a relationship. We've got the crew just hanging at the bar, having drinks. Kiryu's trying to get himself help. Finally meeting up with Haruka again. We got kind of resolution for everybody, but this game's incredible. I'm sure it's selling insanely well as well. I think I saw that somewhere, but if not, it should be. We know more is coming. So where do we go next from Infinite Wealth? So first of all, is there more Yakuza? Because I think as we've gone through, we've been slowly stepping away from the Yakuza. 6 was very much like a small scale group, right? 7 is the Great Dissolution. So, okay, we're losing Tojo Nomi. Those are gone. They're gone. They're done. Gaiden is very focused on, okay, you just have some ties to the Yakuza. And now in this, Siryu Clan comes in and fills that power vacuum, but they're shut down by the end. So we're kind of at this point where we don't have the Yakuza anymore as bad guys. So I'm kind of curious as to what fills in that role. And is there a way to kind of bring that back? Just because the series was Yakuza, I think part of the name switch is just as we kind of fade out of the just Yakuza stories over and over again, is that we fade into we kind of bring in some new things here. So I'm curious, like how much Yakuza is in the next one. I think the cult Palkana having the biggest impact in this, I think that was a good move. It just kind of it gave the game in the series kind of a breath of fresh life, where it's not just like, oh yeah, the Tojo's trying to get this part again, or oh yeah, this time the government's actually in league with the Omi Alliance. Like, it's like, no, here's something brand new. It's a cult. There's some weird stuff going on here. So I'm hoping that we can kind of get more of that and kind of maybe step away from the Yakuza a little bit more, especially with the more those groups fade apart, the less impact they should have on their role in society. I am curious where the Daijo faction comes in, because if you do finish all the lifelinks, they're very, very not happy with Kiryu and Date about what he's doing. So even with Kiryu's handler being killed, they're still out there. And I think they've got to be not happy with Kiryu about how he's kind of come back from some of this stuff. So I'm curious how that goes. And again, the game talks a little bit about how all these governments are secretly in league and kind of secretly know what's going on with Siryu Clan and Palkana. So I'm curious if maybe the next one we kind of get into some of the shadow government stuff. The Daijo faction are kind of the bad guys, and they're kind of they talk a lot about how they're secretly pulling the strings. Not to get too Metal Gear Solid, but kind of that Patriots type thing of like, do we go after those type of people in the next game? So just some thoughts. I don't know. Obviously, Ichiban I think is set up flawlessly to be the next protagonist and keep his role. Yakuza, after the first couple games, started sidelining Kiryu a little bit more, and we got, some of our other 3, 4, and 5 have multiple protagonists. 0, you play multiple protagonists. This, obviously, you play multiple protagonists. So I'm curious if we get a second protagonist, somebody new to step in maybe in the next one. Obviously, Ichiban is there, but I think Kiryu is kind of at the point now with all this stuff where he's got to go more to the on the side character. They're like, okay, he can be the bartender and give your gang advice, because between cancer treatments, between all the things he's gone through, between his age, all that stuff, like at some point, like you got to start fading him out. So I think the next game we kind of get him a little more on the side. But does this RPG take? I don't think quite lends itself as well to having 3. I think 5 might have had 3 protagonists, 4 protagonists. I don't remember exactly, but having those several protagonists in here, I don't necessarily know if the RPG leads to that as well, because the group thing works so much better. But I wonder do we see kind of like we did this here, where we start as a group and then maybe we splinter again. The other kind of things, where do we go? Obviously the series likes reusing locations, which I love. Again, you get to go back and revisit these places that and see how they changed. That was one of my favorites of playing through 0 through 6 really quick, was seeing like Kamurocho Hills develop and how that area changed, and seeing Millennium Tower and where that came from. So I love that stuff. But I think with them introducing Hawaii now, there's going to be this expectation of like, okay, where are we at next time? Because we can't just are they going to go back to just, no, now we have a Hawaii and a Japan? Or are we going to take that big jump and go, okay, well now we're in, I don't know, let's go basic and say New York City. Are we somewhere else random around the world? Like, what's going on there? I think that'd be kind of cool to see some new location. And ultimately, what's the weird side story we're getting? We know we're going to get something. Are we going to get another like 5-hour Kiryu game here? Are we going to get 5 hours focused on some weird thing that Nanba got up to? Who knows? But there's going to be more, which I'm excited about because I absolutely adore this series. I loved it. Just such a great game. Easily one of my favorites of all time. Zero has always been kind of my favorite Yakuza game, and I think this definitely steps above that in terms of my favorite in the series. It's a great game. I'm sure I forgot to talk about some cool stuff here, and I think I got talking really fast because I do that when I get excited, but I loved it. There's some stuff I missed. Feel free to leave it in the comments. Your favorite moments, other things that happened. You can subscribe to our channel. There's a link to support us on Coffee below. We'll see you later.